The Gloom Record, Episode 5, The Gray Shapes. The drive back from Mrs. Gable's was a blur of white lines and peripheral shadows. Every time I glanced at the rearview mirror, the heat signature on the GPS display seemed to pulse, a rhythmic throb that matched the flickering of the streetlights. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I pulled into a 24-hour car wash, a place of high-pressure water and blinding neon, hoping the noise would drown out the clicking. I opened the laptop and went back to the very first folder, the one I thought was full of corrupted data. Thousands of images of gray, shapeless noise. I had assumed they were bad shots taken from inside the walls, but after seeing the thermal heat signature in my car, I realized I was looking at the files all wrong. These weren't photos of my apartment. They were photos of it. I selected a cluster of 50 grayscale files and ran them through a 3D rendering software Elias had left in the server's toolbox. The program began to stack the images, treating the gray noise not as static, but as depth-mapped layers. As the computer fans roared, the shapes began to align. It looked like a biological topographical map. The corrupted gray shapes weren't glitches. They were the nervous system of the gloom. But it wasn't made of nerves and sinew. The 3D model showed a network of fiber optic cables, copper wiring, and what looked like calcified plumbing. The entity was a living piece of infrastructure. It was a creature made of the very things that make a house modern. I zoomed in on the center of the mass. There was a pulsating core where the nerves converged. It wasn't a heart. It was a 16-digit alphanumeric display, flickering so fast it was almost a blur. 7x992B0LL1Z99Q. The password. The digital inheritance wasn't the key to the server. It was the serial number of the thing that took Elias. By typing it into my computer, I hadn't just accessed a drive. I had registered myself as the new host for the entity's expansion. I felt a sudden, sharp pressure in my jaw. I reached up and felt my back molar. It was loose. I pulled, and the tooth came out without any blood. It wasn't a tooth anymore. It had been replaced by a small, perfectly formed piece of gray plastic, a jumper cap from a motherboard. I looked back at the screen. The 3D model of the entity was changing in real time. It was no longer a coiled shape. It was unfolding, flattening itself out, becoming two-dimensional. On the screen, a text prompt appeared, integration 45% complete. Surface area expanding. I realized then why the photos in the first folder looked like black screens. They weren't black because it was dark. They were black because the camera was pressed directly against a surface. The entity isn't just in the walls. It is the surface. It's the paint. It's the screen you're looking at right now. I looked at the car wash window. The water was sheeting down the glass, but the soap suds weren't sliding off. They were forming patterns. They were forming the layout of my office. The gray shapes aren't just data. They are the shadows we ignore in the corners of our vision, the floaters in our eyes, the static on a dead channel. They are the blueprint of a world that is being built over our own, one room at a time. I checked the server's active connections log. There used to be only one, me. Now there are hundreds. Elias didn't just leave this to me. He uploaded the Gloom Record to the cloud. Everyone who has seen the 16-digit code, everyone who has looked at the gray shapes, we are all becoming part of the same house. The car wash brushes started to spin, but they didn't sound like plastic bristles. They sounded like Elias's voice, 1,000 miles away, whispering the same thing over and over. The walls are so thin now. Can you hear me through the drywall? I'm right here. I'm the insulation. In Episode 6, the second folder, where you unlock the feeding schedule and realize it isn't food the entity is consuming.